Great. Okay, so let's go ahead and start, and welcome to the presentation tonight, which is an update on Operation Ukrainian Safe Haven. To our Ukrainian friends who are joining us tonight, Dobre Veche and Laskavo Prosimo. I hope I got that accent sort of right, which is good evening and welcome. So the new Canadian Center is located on Michisagic territory and in the traditional territory of the Michisagic and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. As a newcomer to Canada, it is important for me to recognize that the peace and prosperity that I enjoy today comes at a tremendous cost to Indigenous peoples past and present. We are all treaty people with responsibilities to the land. Please join me in walking the path of reconciliation with Indigenous peoples by acknowledging their important roles as stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters. Let us guide our words and actions by the 7 grandfather teachings that are the foundation to the Indigenous way of life: love, respect, bravery, truth, honesty, humility, and wisdom, and strive for peace and inclusion. So thank you all for joining us. If you're joining us again after the first session that we had at the end of March, thank you. And if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. So I would like to share my screen now, which is to give you the presentation that I'll walk through. Let's see, how do I get my slideshow? Great, okay. Okay, so this is an overview of what we'll do for the meeting tonight. I'll provide an overview of the federal, municipal, and local supports to date for displaced Ukrainians to Canada, focusing on financial donations as well as housing. And then I will pass the torch over to our friends from the Housing Resource Center so that they can present to you this new project that we've collaborated on together, which is a homestay portal and host support. And then after that, we'll connect with Ukrainians locally by introducing a new staff person at the NCC, Olena Shtepa, who is our Ukrainian community liaison, and then go on to the question and answer session. So if you have a question, I would ask you to record it either in the chat, or you can write it down, and we'll save the questions to come to that at the end of tonight's presentation. All right, so let's start with really a review of how we ended up here today. So it all began at the end of February, and then by the end of March, Canada launched the Canada-Ukraine Authorization for Emergency Travel to assist displaced Ukrainians and helping to provide a pathway for them to come to Canada. At around that time, the NCC shared a launch of an appeal for $20,000 towards our client emergency fund, because we were aware that there were no financial supports for Ukrainians at that point in time. We then organized the information session, and within a week, we're able to reach our fundraising goal, and we're able to expand it to $30,000 with the much generosity of our community. After we reached our fundraising goal, we then heard from our provincial counterparts. Ontario announced the emergency income support, job search supports, settlement assistance, and access to OHIP and medication. And then we saw a whole slew of charter flights coming from Poland to Canada on May 8th, from Poland to St. John's, Newfoundland, May 23rd, from Poland to Winnipeg, and from Poland to Montreal. The Government of Canada charter flight from Poland to Halifax. And then on June 6th, Canada announced the federal financial support. June 7th, there was a charter flight from Poland to Moncton, New Brunswick, and July 4th, a charter flight from Warsaw to Regina, Saskatchewan. So I'm happy to share with you the news that I just learned today, that the Canada Visa Application Center in Lviv has reopened today. So this means biometric processing can happen in Ukraine. So this is the link that you could go to get more information. And I should probably also take the opportunity to let you know that this recording, as well as the PowerPoint slides with clickable links, will all be shared on the NCC website. I'll also email them all out to you as well after the presentation. So as of July 5th, over 347,000 applications for QIT, the Canada-Ukraine Authorization for Emergency Travel, have been received, with over 151,000 approved. So between February 24th and July 5th, approximately 55,000 Ukrainian newcomers have landed at the various ports of entry in Canada. 52% have landed in Toronto, 16% in Montreal, 10% in Calgary, 9% in Vancouver, and 4% in Halifax. And we are told that we are seeing 1,500 to 1,700 new arrivals weekly. So in terms of financial support, I've mentioned before that in June, the federal government announced the transitional financial support, which is a one-time payment of $3,000 per adult and a $1,500 per child. And this application can be submitted online. As of July 5th, approximately 32,000 individuals have been approved for support, with a total commitment of about $86 million. As of July 10th, the Canadian Red Cross has received 5,236 individual registrations. The Red Cross is actually providing assistance at the ports of entry in Vancouver, Toronto, as well as Calgary airports. And they've also provided emergency assistance for 956 families. Many of these families have arrived in Canada without a plan for accommodation. So a lot of these referrals are for emergency housing. Provincially, now displaced Ukrainians are eligible for Ontario Works emergency assistance. So they've received over 3,000 applications, which count towards 5,200 beneficiaries. So there is about a 92% approval rate for each application, and it's assessed by Ontario Works administrators for each municipality. So there isn't actually a standardized way. There are guidelines, but there may be some variations depending on which municipality it is that you are landing in. So through provincial assistance, youth under 24, seniors, and if you apply through the emergency assistance application, you can also access the Ontario Drug Benefit Plan. As of July 5th, the applicants are 39% children, 37% seniors, and then the rest would be folks who have access to apply for it through the emergency assistance application. So locally, as I mentioned before, we have disbursed over $30,000 directly to clients through the NCC's Client Emergency Fund. So in terms of donations, so this is in terms of item donations or in-kind donations. So federally, it's being coordinated through this portal, ukrainesafehaven.ca. And what corporations have been encouraged to do is to directly log on to this portal to share what it is that they would like to donate. So we have heard of Loblaws gift cards being offered, Airbnb offers being extended there, as well as flight vouchers for WestJet, including cash, some temporary housing, and some offers of volunteer support. So what happens is that there have been focal point organizations that are designated throughout Canada, and these are mainly centers for resettlement assistance programs that have some experience with how to provide support. So there's a whole slew of focal point organizations throughout Canada, and the offers that are received from corporate donors are then redirected by umbrella organizations like OCASI, the Ontario Council of Agencies Serving Immigrants, to flow through to focal point organizations. So the way that they're being distributed depends on the number. So if you're in a community where you have received more displaced Ukrainians and that are tracked through the iCare federal system, then you will receive more of these donations. The fewer you have in your community, the fewer of these corporate donations you have. Locally, NCC has created a So Kind registry. So that is the link that is there. And what we're doing, because we don't have a lot of storage space really, is collating requests for items that we receive from clients, and we post them on there. So there's a way for you to check off if you are going to be able to meet that demand. And then staff will follow up with you to make arrangements for you to drop items off. The Peterborough Welcome Fund is also where we are collecting donations through our regular pathways and then using them towards creating programs that are supportive. So this flow chart is really a way that the federal government is showing through that Ukraine Safe Haven portal how one can donate. So whether you're a business or an individual, what it is that you're willing to donate, whether it is job offers, goods and services, cash donations, how they flow through, and how to work through that portal. So one of the big issues that we're facing right now is related to housing. So federally, we've heard that hotels across Canada are close to 90% capacity, especially in the summer months. There is even higher demand, and many areas in Canada, this is over 90% capacity. So we are hearing that there's lots of encouragement for Ukrainians to move out of the larger cities towards smaller communities that may have less pressures related to housing. So a survey of people who arrived on the charter flights, 40 to 50% do not actually intend to stay in the city that they arrived in. So you may have arrived on a charter flight to Halifax, but you may end up wanting to relocate to Toronto. So this creates additional pressures related to housing. There has been emergency accommodations provided to over 1,300 individuals across 587 households. And new as of July 11th, the federal government has secured 60 hotel rooms across Canada for emergency housing, which include 45 rooms in Toronto, 10 in Vancouver, and 5 in Calgary. So it's usually about 2 weeks in terms of the emergency housing support that they are able to provide. So provincially, COSTI is the settlement agency that has been designated to organize accommodation for Ukrainian newcomers in the Greater Toronto area. Outside of the Greater Toronto area, settlement agencies are really working through their own ways to manage their own capacity related to housing. But COSTI has a very comprehensive housing and vetting and legal agreement where they're visiting hosts that say that they would like to provide a temporary homestay. And then there's a legal agreement that is signed between the people who are living there as well as the homestay host. So locally, we're hearing from our partners that the municipalities that their agencies are in, some of them have been supporting with funds for emergency housing. So for example, the region of Peel has committed funds towards emergency hotel housing. So in Peterborough, I don't think it's a surprise to know that the vacancy rate for apartments is extremely low. In February, it was 1%. It was the lowest vacancy rate in Ontario. There are no vacancies for affordable apartments below $1,000. The average asking rent in Peterborough for vacant apartments was 22.4% higher than the average rent for occupied apartments. So I'd like to introduce at this point this partnership that we've established with the Housing Resource Center to create a listing of homestay opportunities and support for homestay hosts. And welcome our colleagues from the Housing Resource Center at CCRC, Annie Hedden and Laura Greenwood, to talk about the Home Together program. And this is the link for that program, which is again clickable and will be shared in the PowerPoint. So I will stop sharing so that Annie and Laura can take on the sharing.
Perfect, thank you, Yvonne. I'm just going to pull up the website. There we go. There we go. Is that, can you guys see the website now? Is that perfect? Thank you. All right, so we have, Laura and I have put together the homestay portal. It's located on CCRC's website. It is the address is up here. I think that Yvonne also shared it. ccrc-ptbo.com/home-together/Ukraine. We have 2 sections that we've put together. So one section is for actually searching for housing for people who are arriving from Ukraine. This is, it includes searching for temporary accommodation and also searching for longer term permanent housing. And then the other section is for folks who are looking to offer housing, either temporary or permanent housing for Ukrainians. So let me just see. Perfect. Okay. So we have making the decision to offer to share your home or share your space with another person or another family is a big decision. So the New Canadian Centre put together, a list of questions you might consider, a list of resources and supports that are available, and we wanted to link directly to that. So if you click on the New Canadian Centre button here, it takes you, it should take you directly to the site. Because my internet's a bit slow from being on this Zoom call. Let me just reload. Uh-oh. I'm so sorry, everybody. There we go. So it takes you to the New Canadian Centre site where you can get all of that information here. So if we go back to CCRC's site, if you're looking to offer a space, you would click on offer accommodation, and it brings you over here. So here we have, if you would like to offer temporary housing, then we've created a Google form that you can fill out. The purpose of the form is both so that we can collect the information that we would need to know and that Ukrainian people would need to know if they were going to choose to live in housing that you are offering. It's also intended to help people think through what space they're offering and how they're offering it and what a homestay looks like. So if we take a look at this form, I wonder if, Laura, do you think your internet is more stable than mine?
I can share it. I've got the form pulled up.
Oh, I got it this time. I'll call on you next time. Okay,
Okay.
Thank you. So here's the form. So it's just a basic Google form. Filling out the form at the end, you'll submit it. It will come to us and we will use the information to generate a listing on our website. We ask for your name, pronouns, phone number, email address. It's really important that we have contact information for you because there are situations where we might need to follow up for clarification about what you're offering. And because folks who would be interested in taking you up on your offer will need to be in touch. We ask if you've completed a police check with a vulnerable sector screening. There's no requirement for that to offer accommodation. It's just an extra piece of security for those who might find that reassuring. The address of the unit that you're offering. It's important here that if you're offering more than one unit, that you fill out more than one form. And the reason for that is because further down, we're asking for more specific details about the units that are available. So we're looking to know whether you're the owner of the unit or a tenant of the unit, or if there's some other structure there. Just trying to make sure that we have all the information that we need. We're looking for what languages are spoken in the home, what type of unit is being offered. So is it a room? Is it a unit inside a house, like a basement unit or a duplex? Is it an apartment in a building? Some people are offering secondary suites, and others are offering whole homes and whole apartments. So here you would just do your best to choose the most appropriate answer. We're just trying to get a sense of what the housing offer looks like. How many bedrooms are available? So here we're looking for the number of bedrooms that you're offering to a Ukrainian household. How many bathrooms you have available. So we don't, seems less likely that people would be offering whole bathrooms up. So here we're just looking for either the number of bathrooms in the home or the number of bathrooms you're looking to dedicate to the Ukrainian folks. And down below, there's a question where you'll clarify whether they're shared bathrooms or private bathrooms. How many additional rooms in the homes, things like dens and living rooms and finished basements. We're just trying to get a sense of the size of the home so that the most appropriate matches can be made. Bathroom access, there we go. Is it shared or is it private? The kitchen, is it shared with others? Is it private? Is it some other kitchen setup? The number of people currently living in the home. Just again, trying to get a sense of the space and the number of people that would be occupying it. Same with square footage, just an estimate works.
And square footage is an optional question. You'll see the questions with the red asterisks beside are required questions. The ones without the red asterisk is optional.
Perfect.
I'm not good at estimating square footage. If you don't feel confident estimating square footage, that's entirely fine.
Thank you, Laura. This one's really important. What size of family are you interested in accommodating? Are you looking to accommodate an individual, a couple, a parent with a child, a whole family? Here you get to state that. And in the other field, you can always put additional details. Are you willing to host an unaccompanied minor? So this is a yes/no question. If you do indicate yes, then someone at the New Canadian Centre will follow up with you to get more details. Is it a shared entrance or a separate entrance to the unit? Are pets permitted? You can give details there. Some people will permit some types of pets, but not others. Smoking, any other accessibility considerations you might make. I know my house, you have to walk up 5 stairs to get in any door from outside. So that's something that I would list there. Is parking available? Are meals included? That's a big question that often comes up. Is it free? Are you offering the space for free, or will there be some sort of rent required? How much would you be asking for? Is there a minimum or maximum length of time the space will be available? This is a really important question. Considering everything Yvonne was talking about with the vacancy rates and the rent amounts, it can take some time to find a permanent unit. So it's important to be really clear about how much time you're offering your space for. What other types of things are included? Internet, television, phone, those types of things. Laundry. What does the outdoor space look like and what's available for use? Is there any additional storage beyond just the bedrooms or the unit that you're offering? We ask about garbage disposal just because it's a good thing to think through and to know how you're going to handle that if it arises. And then in the end, we just ask if there's any other information that you'd like to share about yourself or the unit. So that's that form. If we go back to the website, the information goes on a little bit to talk about the importance of having an agreement with the people that you're inviting into your home. Laura, did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So we are suggesting that it is a good idea to have some kind of mutually agreed upon ground rules for living together, kind of document of some sort, just to outline any expectations that you have so that they're clear from the beginning, that folks who might be living in your space can be sure of, right? And this is helpful both in terms of, at the point of making a decision, whether a particular individual or family moving in is going to be a good fit. It helps to make that decision, to have that that list of kind of rules or guidelines there, so that if there's something that's really not going to work for a family, then they know that up front. And also, in case any kind of disagreement arises, it's good to have agreed upon how basic things like sharing space in the kitchen, things like that, are going to be handled in the home. In Ontario, there's one specific kind of lease, which is a standard form of lease, and we've provided a link to it here, that is required to be used when units are autonomous. So something like an apartment, something like a half of a duplex, something like a house, right? But it is not required to use that lease when someone is renting or temporarily staying in your home, right? And you're sharing a kitchen or bathroom with those guests, right? So what we've done as just some places to start, we've included here a link to agreements.etc.com, a very generic website that is a kind of template that you can generate a printable agreement from. And then we've also included a couple of links. Often universities will provide examples of roommate agreements, because students often, living together, the students will have a lease with a landlord, but then there's this suggestion that they might want to make agreements with each other if they're sharing an apartment or a house, to help, everyone get along well and help resolve any issues. So we've included a couple of those because they can be useful in a kind of homestay situation, because they cover a lot of the same kinds of things that are involved, right? In any kind of sharing of living space, when you're sharing bathrooms, when you're sharing a kitchen, what does the logistics of that look like? So they're places to start and things to consider, right? We've also included a link to a fact sheet here from the Landlord Self-Help, which is a really useful website in terms of some advice for landlords in all different kinds of scenarios. And they do have this particular fact sheet that gets into some of the legal details around renting out a room in a home that you as the owner of the home also live in this kind of shared accommodation situations. They have lots of other information there as well. And I've included my information at the bottom here, and the general phone number before the extension there, the 2272, that's the CCRC's phone number. Extension 200 is my extension, as someone that you can reach out to if you have further questions after tonight about offering space in your home, or if you end up in a situation where you are hosting an individual or family and you have a concern. If you have a concern that it might not be working out for whatever reason, then I'm someone who you can reach out to for some support there.
Awesome, thank you, Laura. All right, so, and I guess the other thing that I want to show you just quickly is the list of places that are available. So back to our portal website here, in the Find Housing section, if we take a look in there. So the first section here is about short-term housing with host families. So this is the housing that's intended to bridge the gap between arrival and finding longer-term or permanent housing. It's really important to note that we have not vetted these units. I know there are agencies in larger cities like Toronto. I think Costi is able to vet the units, vet the homeowners. We're not able to do that. So none of these units are vetted. The Housing Resource Center has not seen them. We cannot speak to their condition or their quality, and we have no affiliation with the property owners. We're just taking the information that's submitted to us on that Google form, and we're listing it up here. So right here is our list. This is the list of available housing offers. All of the information that's in here right now is they're just samples. So after this presentation, I'm actually going to go take them out. They're just here so you can see what they look like. We're arranging them by the family size or the type of accommodation that's available. So single individuals know they don't have to look at, whole homes for families of 4 and vice versa. So what happens is, say you're a parent and a child, you're looking for this place, so you can click here. And it pulls up just a PDF with all of the details that were filled out on that form. So in one quick place, you can take a look at the address, who's offering the space, their contact information, and then all of those other details about the number of bedrooms and the bathrooms available and accessibility and all those things. So that's right there, and you can open as many of them as you need to. You can download them, print them, whatever works for you. Each unit will generate its own separate form like that, its own separate PDF. So you can save them if you'd like to. Once we find out that units have been rented, then we'll take them down. So we will do our very best to keep this up to date. We ask for people who do submit listings to us, if you're able to let us know when it's no longer available, that would be really helpful to us. And then further down, we have some information about searching for a permanent home in Peterborough. So the Housing Resource Center, we're available to serve the whole community, anyone in the community who is searching for housing, who's at risk of losing their housing, who's homeless, everyone is eligible for our services. So this is just very basic information about the services that we provide. We produce a set of vacancy listings once a week. Every Friday it comes out. We compile the listings from publicly available sources like Kijiji and Facebook Marketplace and websites of housing providers in town. And if you go to our website, you can actually subscribe to receive that list in your email every Friday. That being said, if you are able to search for places directly on Kijiji, we've got the list right here, the link right here, sorry. Kijiji is going to be the best place that you can look to find housing, permanent housing. So there it is. That's our portal. And I think if anyone has questions, I think Yvonne said we could wait till the end, but we're happy to answer whatever questions anyone has.
Annie, there is one question in the chat. Since we're here, we might maybe just take that question from Lil about if we want to host in our home and fill out the form, will we be contacted by CCRC if someone was interested, or would individual Ukrainians contact us directly?
That's a good question. It would be the individual Ukrainians who would contact you directly. I believe that's, yes. So it would be the individual families that would contact you directly. If there was any support needed, though, either from that individual or on your part as a host, then you could definitely reach out to us and we could help to facilitate that conversation. No problem. Happy to answer questions.
Thanks, Annie. Ian asked, do you guys have a translator to help facilitate that? So I think I can answer Ian's question with the next part of the presentation. So thank you very much, Annie and Laura. And please, if you have more questions related to housing, please save them and we'll get back to them in the Q&A. So I'm going to share my screen. Annie, I'll just take your screen sharing off if that's okay. Oops. Okay, so back to, a little bit more from me in terms of the presentation. So I think a lot of questions that we've received from folks is about connecting with Ukrainians locally. So just to give you a quick snapshot of where we're at, we have heard from at the NCC approximately 75 in Peterborough individuals, as well as about 46 in Northumberland. Over half of this number are children and youth, and There is typically a family connection to someone who's already living in Peterborough, but we are seeing the trend of more unattached families, so people who don't have family or friends in Peterborough, singles as well. And then in terms of literacy in English, it is a range from beginner to intermediate. There's also a range of work experiences that people are coming with. And the majority are enrolled in the LINK program, which is the Language Instruction for New Canadians program, or the English Language Bridging program at Fleming College. Something that we have been alerted to by our counterparts across Canada is that we're seeing more children who are coming as unaccompanied minors. And we are able to seek support in Ontario from the Child Welfare Immigration Centre of Excellence to help to support them. So I think this is where I would like to introduce my colleague, Olena Stepa. So this is a big endeavor to support Ukrainians in our community, and we are happy to devote the resources to do that at the New Canadian Centre. So Olena has joined us for a few days. So she's very fresh on the job as our Ukrainian community liaison. And you can contact Olena at nccpeterborough.ca. So just a very broad look at the responsibilities that she has in this part-time position is to moderate a platform for community members like you to contact and meet Ukrainians who are looking to settle in Peterborough or who already have, to triage a little bit all the offers that we're receiving of help, donations of items and queries, to contact hosts who have offered homestays, to post on the housing portal that you've just seen that Annie and Laura have shared. So Ian, to your question, Olena is available to help translation if that's needed in that situation, and to organize a Ukrainian community get-together. But I think this is where I pass it on to Olena. Olena, let me know when you want me to advance the slides.
Sure, will do. Thanks, Yvonne. Hi, everyone. I'm Olena Stepa, as Yvonne introduced me very kindly. I'm very new to the New Canadian Centre, but it feels like I've been doing this job for a little bit, getting connected with the community and getting connected with Ukrainians that have arrived here thus far. So I'm very excited to be stepping into a formal role like this with the New Canadian Centre to help connect and be that glue between the Canadian citizens who are here willing to help newcomers who are coming here and deciding to settle. My job will be, so maybe I'll give you a bit of an introduction of myself. Olena, as my name sort of gives it away. I'm Ukrainian born, but I moved here to Toronto 21 years ago. I came here to study at a university. And so I do know what it means to move to a new country and to try to fit to the community, try to speak the language, learn it. Everything just comes together. It's a little bit different right now for Ukrainians who are coming here because they're forced to leave their home and flee. And I'll share a story of someone from the community, a family who's come here, just to sort of back up what Yvonne was saying about the help that we've seen thus far, what is offered through the New Canadian Centre, and how you can help if you're choosing to and stepping up. A little bit, maybe we'll go to the next slide, Yvonne. We've talked a little bit about having that hub where the local folks can go to offer up housing. This is a Facebook group where we can connect and talk about housing. We can talk about employment. Those are the top things that I'm hearing from the Ukrainian newcomers that are hot topics for them. And some people who are reaching out who are on the way here. So this is a group that was created by someone else, Elena. She was kind to share admin rights with me just today. So I'm happy to facilitate this group for everyone as well. And the group was made around 2 months ago, beginning of May. So it's pretty fresh, got 74 members today, and we're growing. So the purpose of this platform is to be autonomous place where the community and the newcomer Ukrainians can come together, discuss things that are interesting, post things like, here's a food bank, here is this job fair happening, here's an event happening. So just sort of a platform where people can talk. And so I'm happy to say that I'll be working closely with Elena, working closely with the community, and facilitating whatever useful and good information needs to be there. Just to give a quick example from today, even, I wouldn't think anyone would need a piano, but if you ask, if you don't ask, you don't get. So I've asked around. There was 2 people who were interested in picking up this piano in the Ukrainian, from the Ukrainian newcomers. Who would have thought, right? So we'll organize that for them, and we'll figure out how they can pick it up. So things like that would be great to facilitate. And the other thing that Yvonne mentioned was to have some fun, right? To bring the community together. So we can go to the next slide, probably. Things are happening fast. Next week on Wednesday, we're doing a get together. It's called a Ukrainian community picnic, or Zabava, which means like a fun get together. So the purpose of that event is again to get the community and the newcomers, Ukrainians, together face to face, have some fun. There'll be some games, there'll be some refreshments, and just have conversations and offer up a helping hand if need be, or get creative in the ways that you know, that individual, that family may need help. Maybe it's just a simple advice on a career path that they may take forward. It's all very valuable. And Ukrainians or any other newcomers, they don't really have those insights into how it is the life here in Canada, in Peterborough specifically. So that would be very valuable. So I guess now I'll just share a really quick story about a family of 4 displaced Ukrainians who came to Peterborough back in beginning of April. They used to live around the Bucha area, not too far from Kiev. On the 24th of February, they woke up to bombings, and they made a decision right away to flee, to leave their home and move to the western part of Ukraine where it was safe. They stayed there until they decided things were developing, and they decided that it was time for them to escape and move to Europe. And while they were applying to come to Canada, they decided to come here. They waited for about a month and a half in Europe before they got their visas to enter here. They landed in Canada. They did have a friend here, so that was a little bit helpful, and she was able to sort of maneuver and find a host for them to stay with. It's a gentleman they're staying with in Ennismore. So they were lucky to secure that before coming here, as well as the father was able to secure employment with a local construction company. So that was a big deal to be able to have that ready. If you read through forums, not everybody has that luxury. So again, it goes a really long way to have that help here locally. After they've settled here for the first couple of weeks, getting the basics under their belt, like getting the SIN number, getting their OHIP, their bank accounts, they did lean a lot on the New Canadian Center and the help that we provided them. What Yvonne was saying, language classes, they're enrolled in the LINK program, getting their English language up. The children are enrolled in the Catholic school at Ennismore. So the boy is 10 and the girl is 6. The boy has a spectrum of autism, so it was important for him to get into the school with helpers to help him settle. And as you can imagine, it is very disruptive time for anyone, but especially for someone who is hyperactive and doesn't fully understand what is going on. So that was a challenge in itself, but again, with the right people coming together and the spots available, it was just a great miracle, honestly, at the end of the school year to get this helper for this boy. It really went a long way just for him to feel safe, to have his communication become better, made him more accustomed to his new home. And again, just an example of how the community, the school, the New Canadian Center, the volunteers, how everybody came together to help translate, to make this all happen. for them to get integrated to the community as fast as possible and as seamless as possible. The school gifted them a trampoline. Like I said, he's hyperactive, so for him to go and just jump it all off just brings a big smile to his face. So it really goes a really long way. Again, I would say that again. In generally, my observation about the needs of Ukrainians is really, like I said, housing, which we're dealing with, right? There's now a tool, a platform. If you're willing to help, please use the Housing Resource Center and reach out for help. And then the employment is another big thing. So again, if there's career advice or there is anything happening that you know of that could be useful in terms of opportunities, that would be really great. The other thing that I wanted to mention to add or to wrap this up really is the Ukrainian get together that we're doing. There is a person in the community who is doing it on Saturdays. So welcome to come there, mingle with Ukrainians. It's a bi-weekly thing. It happens at the Bridge Youth Center. So again, in addition to next Wednesday and after, there's a recurring event. Anybody new who's coming, you have a chance to meet them during that Saturday. And I think the hours are from 10 to 2. So I'm again very happy to be here. I am excited to be helping. I speak Russian, I speak Ukrainian, I speak English, so I can help translate, and please reach out. I'm here to help. Over to you, Yvonne.
I'm sorry, with the sharing, I couldn't find the unmute button. So thank you very much, Olena. That's a great summary of the work that you'll be engaged in. And I'm sure that our community will also reach out to you with suggestions that they have for things that we could be doing as well. So, to wrap up the presentation that we have today, really, just in summary, the same thing that I've said at the previous presentation is that displaced Ukrainians are not refugees. So there are no established pathways for income and housing support. So there's a lot that's happening that is emerging. So we ask for your patience, both as a client and as a community member, in terms of figuring out what is the best route towards helping. But to understand that this pathway accords them a temporary status in Canada. So it's hard for us to make firm long-term plans. We'll continue to participate in Ontario Ukrainian Action Table meetings weekly and to share information with you when we can. We are unclear whether displaced Ukrainians will be destined for our community the same way that government-assisted refugees are through our resettlement assistance program. We're also unclear whether there are other supports that will be provided in the future. But what is clear is that the housing affordability and availability issue is a crisis across the country, and that we'll continue to try and do our best to work through this issue. And so Lena already mentioned, what can you do to help? So this is just a summary slide that gives you all the links in terms of the donation of in-kind items, to be a host for homestay, to send job leads to our employment counselor, Olga, to connect with the community through the Facebook group, and to join the community picnic from 5 to 7 on July 20th, which is happening next week. So I wanted to take the opportunity while we're here. Olena mentioned the gathering that's happening at the Bridge Youth Center, and we have Rani here, one of the organizers. So I'll pass this on to Rani.
Hello, Yvonne. Hello, Marisa. It's good to see you all. I'm feeling like I'm back again to the NCC. Yes, as Yvonne mentioned, I am Rani Ibrahim, lay minister of Newcomers Ministries at St. Paul's Presbyterian Church. And I have the opportunity to work with the NCC around 9 months ago, and I have a lot of friends there. I'm not working with the NCC anymore, but I look to myself as a friend for the NCC. So the Newcomers Ministry have many programs to help newcomers from different countries. And we do programs, gathering programs for Ukrainians at the Bridge Youth Center 256 Brook Street, twice every Saturday. This idea came like I want to do something for Ukrainians. I used to do gatherings for Syrians, Arabic newcomers. And I know a lady, her name is Katrina. I think she's with us right now. I know her since through Fleming College since 2016. So I went to her and I said to her, I don't know any Ukrainians, but I would like to do programs for them. And she said, sure, I know Ukrainians. So we meet together and we decide to do these programs. And in these programs, we offer a larger space, as many activities like PlayStations, billiards tables, footballs, hockey games, open kitchens, and projectors with a larger screen and many things others. And so we host the Ukrainians like twice every month. And in the future, we may be able to offer free meals, but right now they can have free tea, free coffee, or anything they like. And I'm really happy to see the Ukrainians come together. And during this meeting, we are going to talk more about the issue and that Ukrainians like facing. In addition, for that, I'm trying to help Ukrainians like to find a job and with temporary housing. I help some of them, and I will continue to help others. And please feel free to communicate with me. Elena, you are the new staff at the NCC. Please feel free to communicate with me. And I would like to ask Katrina, my assistant, if I can say that, if she would like to say something, if you are okay with that as well.
Hello, Rani. Hello, everyone. Just a second. Thank you very much for that opportunity. I'm very happy to be part of that that gathering, and thank you so much for providing through your ministry that space. I believe that it's very helpful to everyone, and we will help as much as we can. So, and I'm very happy that Alana, as Ukrainian, joining New Canadian Center will be easier for Ukrainians to communicate and get some information for someone from Ukraine. And thank you, NCC, and everyone who's doing their best to support Ukrainians and other refugees, for anyone who needs any help, any newcomers, and everyone who's donating, providing housing, and supporting in general. Thank you very much.
And Yvonne, if I can mention that we have also Ukrainian girl. She's volunteering with our ministry, and she's doing a wonderful job. Her name is Elvina, and she's with us as well. Thank you. Thank you very much. And someday we will have coffee together, Marisa and Yvonne.
Thank you, Rani. Thank you, Katerina. So we'll move on to the question and answer and comment section of today's session. I have received a question in the chat here about how to deal with credit checks that are needed for permanent housing. And I'll pass this on to either Annie and Laura or to Faye, my colleague, who is the Settlement Services Coordinator, to see what to do about that.
I could speak to that a little bit. So a lot of landlords do require credit checks. That can be more complicated for newcomers. I don't have a lot of experience doing credit checks with newcomers. I know the process there's two different things, right? There's a credit score and a credit check. A credit check gives you a lot more information and a lot more to work with. So a credit check is what I would advise for anyone who's concerned about their credit, because when you get a credit check, you actually get an itemized list of all of the different payments that you have and haven't made. It gives you room to explain things that might be negative and to highlight things that might be perceived as more positive. You can get a credit check through TransUnion or through Equifax. You can get it for free. I have the form in my office, so if anyone would like to contact me for that form, you're welcome to. Otherwise, you have to poke way down on the website. It's in the very, very small print, but it's free. It takes a couple weeks to come back. But once you have that document, you can actually take it from landlord to landlord and show it to them, so that you're not getting constant soft checks showing up on your credit report, which could affect your score eventually. That's sort of my rundown on credit checks. I'm not sure if that answered the question.
Yeah, no, I think that's great in terms of understanding from the landlord part. I think some of the questions that newcomers do have is that being newly arrived to Canada, they don't really have any credit score, right? It's like how to build that credit score. But if you are required to rent a place soon, you don't have that enough time to be able to build those scores. So some of the suggestions that we do, give to newcomers is that firstly, knowing that like how to build those scores is like, you know, you kind of have to have like a credit card, you need to make your monthly payments. So those are things to think about in terms of how to build your credit score. So what if you really don't? So sometimes some landlords are okay with not checking credit scores. They might accept things like if you do have employment, they might be okay with that. You know, looking for other ways to kind of get around it. Like, you know, if you have permanent employment with a letter from an employer, would that work? Yeah, so I think it's a lot of negotiation. We have seen landlords who have accept tenants without needing a credit check. So it's definitely a huge challenge for newcomers, but we do know that credit scores take time to build. That's just the reality. Yep. Don't know if that helps answer the question.
Thanks, Faye and Annie. I would add that I've heard from focal point organizations that this is something that is not just unique to Peterborough, that because they don't have the credit history, it leaves folks quite vulnerable to making permanent housing arrangements. In fact, in terms of being open to abuse, where a potential landlord asked a family for 4 to 6 months rent in order to secure the housing. And the family raised $25,000 in a miraculous way. And when they went to sign it, the landlord said, no, I've changed my mind. And then they were left without a permanent housing arrangement. So I think to be aware that this situation does place folks in a real vulnerable and precarious situation. Unfortunately, in their case, they have a lawyer who has agreed to pro bono their services to fight this through a lawsuit. So just to be aware for everyone on the call that there are folks who are facing this kind of abusive situation. Olena, did you want to ask that question of everyone?
Sure, there was a question that came through asking to find a good dentist in around Ennismore area for, you know, regular procedures. Can anyone suggest a dentistry that they know? If not right now, we'll take it back and we'll get back to the person who asked this. Thank you, though.
Any other questions from folks in the room? If you would like to make a comment or to share your story, please also feel free to unmute and do that. Okay. Faye, do you have a question about a translator?
No. I'm just saying, I think Ian had a question earlier on about.
Yes.
Oh, was that already answered?
Yes, I mentioned that Olena could help
Olena
with
would do it.
translation
Okay.
as needed. Yeah. Yes, Donna, go ahead.
I'm just curious about the employment opportunities. And what is the biggest problem in terms of employment? Or is there a problem? Are there many jobs available for people? What are the requirements? I'm really wondering. I don't see how settlement can happen really successfully unless people can be employed. So I really like to hear about employment.
Sorry, Yvonne, can I share something if you are okay with that?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yesterday and today we went to employment company and with some Ukrainians. I went with them and first of all, they have concerns about their social insurance number and they're wondering if they can help them or not. As you know, some employment company, they have been supported through the federal government, or sorry, the provincial government. And later on, they find out, yes, they can help them and they can provide them any help they need. So they were helping doing their resume, and they are going to look to find a job for them, and they give them advice and everything's like that, which is so good as well.
Maybe my question also that I might add to is, what is the New Canadian Centre's role in employment for Ukrainians?
Faye, would you like to take the question?
Yeah. So we do have an employment counselor. We do have Olga Stechuk. Olga does speak Russian, perhaps some Ukrainian. And yeah, so her role is basically to connect newcomers, Ukrainians, with employers, and basically also looking at Ukrainians or any newcomers what do you call it, credentials, and being able to match them with what is possible and what is out there. So for my recent conversation with Olga is that there are jobs that is like more trades and more skills, that more manual work that's available. However, like we know that Ukrainians are coming with very different background. If like, for example, like lawyers or people who have master's degree in environmental science, and it is found that it's a bit challenging. It's quite challenging to be able to practice what you were previously doing back home in Ukraine and bring it here into Canada, because many of these jobs are registered jobs, right? So I think sometimes it's also part of that expectations is if newcomers are expecting that, okay, I want the same kind of job that I have back in Ukraine, and to be able to do it here in Canada, then there is a mismatch. But in terms of other jobs out there, from my understanding is that, yep, like, like Holiday Inn is hiring, like there are certain jobs out there, like perhaps like landscaping, technical jobs, but it may not be suitable for everyone, kind of thing. But yes, in terms of like our role, we definitely help with finding employment.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll add too here that there is a language assessor at the New Canadian Centre, which places clients into different level of programs, both for ESL and for LINK. And we've learned from LINK that because of the demand, that they have opened the LINK for employment class, so language geared to employment. I think we have seen that many are very motivated to improve their English, as well as also wanting to work at the same time. So I think working with our language providers as well as tutors to make sure that that support is available to meet as many needs and capacities as possible is something that we'll continue to do and to monitor. Thanks, Donna and Faye. Any other questions or anyone who wants to make a comment?
Sorry, Yvonne, I used to talk a lot. Can I mention something related to what you are talking about?
Absolutely.
And related to for what Faye was talking about, and by the way, hi Faye, at the employment company, and maybe Olga know about that as well. They also able to help Ukrainians to communicate it with organization on Toronto. They have a website, and they do evaluation or assess to their certificate to see how they fit with the Canadian programs. And the employment company can cover the expense of the cost for that as well, which is so good.
Yeah, that's a credential assessment, Rani, you're mentioning. Yeah, absolutely. So because of the provincial support, any Ukrainian can go to any Employment Ontario funded agency. So in Peterborough, there's YMCA, EPC, Agilec, that they can also get services at. So there's a question in the chat here from Malav about, do they get help in terms of job search, resume, and interview prep? So we do that at the NCC, and any of our Employment Ontario partners can also do that as well. Okay, so I'll make one more call to see if there's anyone who would like to speak about their experiences, make a comment, or to ask a question. Okay, if not, I'm very, very grateful to you for taking time from this rainy evening to spend it with us to learn about all the different programs that are available and what we have been working on. Thank you. As Katerina had mentioned, for those of you who are already helping and who continue to help welcome newcomers to Peterborough. So thank you very much. The slides will be posted as well as this recording as soon as the video is processed on our website. And if you have registered for this meeting using the Zoom register link, I'll also send it out by email as well. So thank you everyone, and have a good night.